Don't point fingers at the crown just yet. Princess Anne has shattered the silence amid Meghan's meltdown in an explosive, exclusive published February 19th, 2026. Royal Confidential brings the inside story, because in a world where scandal fuels attention, truth can hit harder than any rumour. Ambition and legacy aren't interchangeable, and Princess Anne proved that with cold precision. Marlborough House, February 19th, 2026. The storm hadn't simply passed. It detonated with unprecedented force. Only 6 days after Buckingham Palace dropped one of its most direct and scathing public statements in recent memory, one of the monarchy's most steadfast figures finally spoke. Princess Anne's trademark style, quiet, measured yet razor-sharp, cut through the noise like a scalpel. Her words were not retaliation, they were affirmation, confirmation that a decisive fracture had opened between the royal family and Meghan Markle. In just 10 days, Meghan's global commercial, artistic and public persona unravelled across 4 countries, 5 industries, and an international press corps no longer willing to accept her narrative without scrutiny. Anne's tone was unflinching, her analysis surgical, her message unmistakable. "The monarchy is not your scapegoat," she made brutally clear. In doing so, she publicly vindicated her son, Prince James of Edinburgh, whose rapid and discreet crisis, handling behind palace walls, earned him the unofficial title of the monarchy's silent executor. On the morning of February 19th, 2026, during a closed-door media relations summit at Marlborough House, Princess Anne delivered what insiders now describe as the first fully unfiltered royal commentary on the Meghan crisis. She responded to a cascade of catastrophic industry collapses, diplomatic bans, and veiled threats, including Meghan's February 10th video accusing the monarchy of orchestrating her professional downfall. Anne showed no effort to conceal her disapproval. When asked about the growing number of international brands severing ties with Meghan and her "With Love Meghan" lifestyle empire, she said bluntly, her brand was built on positivity and accessibility, but it could never exist without royal varnish. Novelty fades, character stays. What we're seeing now is the unvarnished truth. She paused only briefly before adding, "Businesses invest in longevity, not disruption. A brand rooted in embellished ambition, tethered to controversy, will always rot from the inside. That's why she's been rejected. Let's not pretend this is our doing." In that room, a tense mix of senior palace communicators and representatives from royal patronages, witnesses described the moment as cold, calm, and conclusive. To grasp the weight of Anne's words, one must revisit the maelstrom that led here. February 12th, 2026, Canada, France, the UAE, and Singapore either revoked Meghan's commercial licenses or imposed shadow bans at the industry level. The UAE's Ministry of Culture and Economy invoked Article 9 of its Foreign Branding Act to prohibit all luxury and wellness products tied to Meghan's brand, citing political neutrality violations and offshore promotional abuses. The CRA flagged RQL Media for irregular disclosures and licensing failures, prompting Netflix Canada and CBC to terminate partnerships. France's Pour LA Communication issued internal non-renewal notices to Vogue, LVMH and Chanel, citing reputational risk. Singapore and Japan removed her candle and fragrance lines, citing misleading heritage claims. By February 10th, Meghan released a 2-minute pre-recorded message on Instagram and Spotify alleging that these moves weren't about paperwork. They were about power. She claimed a coordinated effort was unfolding from London to Dubai to Ottawa to erase her professionally, culturally, and personally, even if it meant exposing what had been buried in 2016 at the Balearic Islands. Summer 2016, the veiled threat she referenced, exploded across royal and intelligence circles. Widely interpreted as a desperate swipe at Prince William, it was seen as an attempt to counteract her public collapse through private leverage. Hours later, unpublished 2016 photos of Prince Andrew on a private yacht near the Baltic, surrounded by foreign businessmen and shadowy NGOs, leaked online. Royal insiders noted the timing and obscurity of the source, but it wasn't William. When asked about the photos, Princess Anne remained composed. Her words, however, sliced through tension like a scalpel. It's no surprise when old ghosts resurface. We are not responsible for explaining what another member of this family once tried to bury. She didn't flinch. She didn't protect Andrew, but she made it abundantly clear. The crown would not absorb the sins of its exiles. Amid the chaos, the palace's operational response was immediate and precise, largely orchestrated by Prince James, Princess Edward's only son. A rising institutional figure known for unshakable discretion and methodical diplomacy, James is now internally regarded as the monarchy's crisis firewall. He convened emergency press and security briefings at Lancaster House within 24 hours of Meghan's video, oversaw the public release of William's 2016 UN itinerary, proving he was in Nairobi, not the Baltic, and authorised digital forensic cooperation with GCH to verify that any alleged recordings of William were fabricated or taken out of context. Legal warning letters followed swiftly on February 11th, demanding retraction of false claims. Anne reportedly told her communications team, "James can make a scandal disappear in 48 hours. No drums, no smoke." In this first part of our exclusive series, Princess Anne's emergence offers no rage, no retaliation, only cold clarity. Her praise for James, her dismissal of Meghan's accusations, and her firm tone on Andrew's legacy signal one thing: the royal family is no longer playing defence. It is curating distance, enforcing accountability, and trusting its next generation to lead with quiet precision. At the centre of that operation, not William, not Charles, but Prince James of Edinburgh, the rising architect of containment. Clause 7 made this crisis dangerously complex. Buried within Harry and Meghan's 4-page private marriage agreement, it was drafted to mimic corporate prenups, not royal protocols. It gave Meghan unilateral control over public statements about their marriage, both during and after the union, drafted by an American law firm allegedly slipped past Palace Counsel. Even more shocking, it carried binding authority outside the UK, including California, Qatar, and UAE, key regions for Meghan's brand and media ventures. Activated in January 2026, following the February 10th fallout, Clause 7 unleashed a barrage of curated media articles, podcast leaks, and strategically placed social posts portraying Meghan as the abandoned mother, silenced royal outsider, and most explosively the whistleblower allegedly trying to stop a cover-up involving Prince Andrew. The royal household's communications office struggled to counter the narrative. Meghan's PR team invoked Clause 7 repeatedly, issuing cease and desist warnings to UK and US media, threatening defamation suits. Anne personally raised the alarm to the Sovereign Council, arguing that Meghan had weaponized a legal tool against the monarchy's institutional voice. In a private memo, Anne wrote, "What we face is not freedom of speech, it's weaponized narrative laundering." Clause 7 had transformed press appearances into hostage negotiations. Prince Harry spiraled internally, leaking texts and audio clips, some containing alarming threats allegedly made by Meghan. One clip became the subject of intense debate across UK morning shows, featuring Meghan saying, "I'll make the world think you left your children for vodka and pity." Lawyers debated authenticity. Chain of custody evidence emerged. MPs quietly circulated draft motions to revise the Royal Marriages Act, blocking such clauses in the future. More shockingly, Home Office and IRS sources flagged a secondary function of Clause 7. It allowed Meghan's Montebello charity access to joint contract earnings during the marriage, including streaming residuals and book advances, much of it shielded in California Shell LLCs. Meghan's longtime crisis PR operator was subpoenaed to verify whether Clause 7 was used to suppress investigations into foundation spending. Princess Catherine reportedly broke her silence in a closed meeting with Charles and Edward. This clause isn't about protection, it's about positioning. Meghan doesn't want freedom. She wants the final word. Clause 7 has now become the central point of litigation. Royal family lawyers petition California courts to invalidate it as a coercive contract made under false pretenses, but the damage may already be done. In the court of public opinion, Clause 7 has become a metaphor, a hashtag, a legal cautionary tale. American tabloids call it the Duchess Clause. British royalists, the Royal Gag Order. Legal scholars now debate whether future royal marriages should require international arbitration panels, and in less than 2 weeks, this buried footnote exploded into the most dangerous line ever written in modern Windsor history, as news broke that Meghan Markle had been subpoenaed to testify in the Epstein-related lawsuit implicating Prince Andrew. Strategic overdrive gripped Buckingham Palace like never before. The palace's press office issued a terse 3-sentence statement acknowledging awareness of the legal developments, but refused to comment on ongoing judicial matters. Behind closed doors, however, the Crown's legal advisers were entrenched in crisis sessions, analysing every possible angle. This wasn't routine legal manoeuvring. It was full-scale containment mode. The subpoena compelling Meghan's testimony was no coincidence. Legal experts revealed that her name had quietly appeared among key contacts in private flight logs and social rosters tied to several Epstein-affiliated fundraisers. In the early 2000s, Meghan had attended at least 3 high-profile New York and Florida events, where Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell were confirmed guests. Though she had long distanced herself from Epstein, condemning his actions publicly, the court now demanded clarity. Why had she maintained connections with mutual contacts who were later convicted or indicted? One private email, recovered through forensic subpoena, allegedly showed her praising Andrew's high-level introductions in early 2015. The leak of these emails ignited firestorms. On American talk shows, Meghan was framed as both victim and opportunist. Across British tabloids, she was denounced as a reckless interloper, whose past now threatened to drag the Crown into deeper disgrace. CNN's Anderson Cooper hosted a primetime panel questioning whether the Duchess had knowingly benefited from Epstein's network. Sky News ran an exposé mapping Meghan's early social climbs alongside Ghislaine Maxwell's inner circle, framing her proximity as troubling. But it was Prince Harry who captured global attention. Hours after the subpoena was confirmed, he posted a now-deleted Instagram story, a black-and-white childhood photo of himself with Diana, captioned simply, "She warned me." Tabloids exploded instantly. Was Harry accusing the palace of setting Meghan up, or worse, implying that his own family had turned a blind eye to predatory behaviour for decades? Close sources say Harry was livid. He believed the subpoena was orchestrated to undermine Meghan's fragile public standing, just as the couple prepared a legal bid to reclaim their royal titles. Tensions escalated when their Netflix contract reportedly came under urgent review, executives citing reputational instability linked to the subpoena. Archwell's lead counsel Danielle C. resigned hours later, fueling speculation that the Sussex brand was crumbling. Insiders revealed that Prince William had been briefed months earlier on Meghan's name appearing in sealed Epstein documents, but said nothing. Harry interpreted this silence as betrayal, a failure of familial loyalty, not careful strategy. Meghan, already distressed by the optics of testifying in a scandal involving underage trafficking, began limiting public appearances entirely. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew remained uncharacteristically silent. His lawyers issued a flat denial that Meghan's testimony could implicate him directly, but for the first time, they stopped short of disputing her proximity to key figures. Internal palace communications reopened, with senior council sources confirming 2 newly discovered photographs showing Meghan, Andrew and Ghislaine at a closed-door charity gala in Palm Beach, images likely to surface in court. Princess Anne and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, reportedly urged King Charles to strip Meghan and Harry of all remaining honorary titles before institutional damage became irreversible. Charles, however, remained cautious, torn between safeguarding the monarchy's long-term image and avoiding accusations of silencing a potential whistleblower. By week's end, headlines shifted from royal rift to the House of Sussex in free fall. Legal commentators debated whether Meghan would comply with the subpoena, request diplomatic immunity, or launch a public counter-offensive. Yet one question haunted every palace corridor. What exactly did Meghan know? And when did she know it? Because if she told the truth in court, Prince Andrew might not be the only royal whose secrets were exposed. At 9:43 a.m. on February 19, 2026, A folder labelled Balearic Archive 2016 appeared across multiple encrypted whistleblower platforms. Within minutes, grainy yet damning photographs spread on social media. Prince Andrew aboard a luxury yacht off Mallorca, accompanied by intermediaries from an Emirati-backed impact philanthropy group, with shell offices in Monaco and Cyprus. A fourth figure, initially blurred, was later confirmed to be a young Meghan Markle, time-stamped August 19, 2016. Royal sources scrambled for containment, but Princess Anne, renowned for institutional clarity and strategic composure, took a different approach. During an internal strategy meeting at Marlborough House, she responded coolly, "We live in a time where the past is on speed dial. I don't find it surprising that hidden years come back into the light. What surprises me more is the expectation that the institution must now explain secrets. One person worked so hard," she added deliberately, signalling distancing from Andrew without naming him. Anne's words were surgical, calculated and precise, drawing clear boundaries between the Crown and the Duke of York's personal indulgences masked as diplomacy. Behind the scenes, James, Earl of Wessex, and Anne's only son coordinated internal triage as head of the palace's Silent Integrity Task Force, SITF. Sources say James treats legacy threats like institutional toxins. He isolates, sterilizes, and removes them quietly, without spectacle. SITF traced the Mitchell Foundation, the yacht sponsor's charitable front, to 3 flagged accounts in Liechtenstein, same accounts quietly buried in a 2020 audit trail after Andrew's disastrous 2019 Newsnight interview. This time, stakes were higher. Meghan's presence in the photographs reopened the timeline and reframed the narrative. Royal commentator Julian Keane noted bluntly, "It's no longer just about Andrew's past sins. Meghan's involvement years before meeting Harry challenges everything she's built her public story on. It blurs the line between accidental proximity and strategic positioning." Anne, however, refused to be baited by speculation. Her internal memo leaked later that afternoon. "The monarchy cannot operate in reaction to reputational aftershocks. We are not in the business of explaining rumours. We are in the business of sustaining standards." This philosophy underpinned her leadership for decades. Charles moved too slowly, William too cautiously. Anne perfected decisive minimalism. She did not over-explain, overcorrect, or overreact. She simply upheld the institution. As for Meghan, the timing couldn't have been worse. Her With Love Meghan brand was already bleeding. LVMH quietly withdrew from collaboration. Netflix suspended pending productions. The Dubai Royal Foundation reviewed all joint programs. These photographs added a new dimension. Were Meghan's early interactions near the royal family, before Harry, part of a long-term alignment strategy? Royal finance analyst Imelda Rousseau suggested these were more than yacht party snapshots. They were proof of soft access to power, the informal zones where influence grows. Meghan, if nothing else, understood how to be seen where it counted. Anne refused to dwell on conspiracy. Her final internal statement was concise. "The past is not the enemy. Weakness is pretending it won't return." SITF was expected to submit classified findings to the Sovereign Council. Royal observers anticipated a re-evaluation of all foreign partnerships involving current and former royal affiliates. Under Anne's steady direction, the palace was not retaliating. It was pruning. And when Anne prunes, the roots of the monarchy grow stronger, even if a few branches must fall silently. Meanwhile, the media cycle had turned merciless, headlines calcified. Meghan Markle's empire wasn't merely shaking, it was crumbling. As spokespeople, surrogates, and strategists scrambled to offer statements, damage control, and misdirection, one voice remained deliberate, rare, and surgically precise: the quiet yet unyielding authority of Princess Anne. Princess Anne emerged from Windsor's horseshoe cloisters like a figure carved from stone, calm, deliberate, and impossibly sharp. A Sky News reporter approached, asking if she had any thoughts on the viral Balearic photographs. Anne paused for the briefest of moments, almost imperceptible, then gave a measured nod and replied, "I think the images speak for themselves. If you're looking for outrage, try asking those still owed donations by that so-called charity. No further comment, no need for elaboration, and yet, her words struck like a thunderclap across every newsroom, social media feed, and forum of royal watchers worldwide. Inside palace walls, the sentence was interpreted as the final institutional distancing, not just from Prince Andrew's shadowy past, but from Meghan Markle's unravelling media strategy. Anne's silence wasn't emptiness, it was intentional. It carried decades of discipline, a lifetime of observing when words are power and when silence speaks louder. Her son, Prince James of Edinburgh, mirrored her posture, operating with quiet ferocity. Leaks from internal Marlborough House memos, shared under strict anonymity, revealed that James had been tasked with what insiders described as reputational back-end processing. His job was surgical, excise all residual liabilities from the royal family's public image and ensure no collateral damage from Andrew's missteps or Meghan's faltering empire. James's operation was meticulous. He launched a complete audit of charities linked to Andrew dating back to 2004, including those with Mediterranean offshore interactions. Legal firewalls were installed around Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie to ensure they could not be invoked as shields for their father's legacy. Meanwhile, the Crown Communications Office drafted a memo making it clear any member involved in unregulated, cross-border charitable activity would no longer enjoy palace media support. The timing could not have been more calculated. One day after the Balearic photos resurfaced, and mere hours before a key sponsor withdrew from Meghan Markle's With Love Meghan sustainability series, the palace executed what sources inside dubbed strategic euthanasia. As one insider explained, they didn't fire a missile. They just pulled the oxygen. By this point, Meghan's empire had already been struck by multiple blows. The Netflix co-production deal had collapsed, milestones from her children's animation series went unfulfilled, her high-profile skincare line in the UAE quietly vanished due to intellectual property complaints. An FTC consumer protection notice cited her organic candle line for misleading environmental claims, and TikTok activists exposed faked social media testimonials. The sudden collapse of her Middle Eastern fundraising tours was the final nail in what had once been considered the lifeblood of her brand. The Balearic photographs didn't just reawaken Andrew's past, they reshaped Meghan's present. They depicted Andrew smiling alongside figures connected to offshore funds and allegedly misused foundations. When juxtaposed against Meghan's lavish brand launches and silence on Andrew's controversy, the public response was explosive. Critics highlighted the hypocrisy, preaching integrity, sustainability, and women's empowerment, while remaining silent when the very institution she leveraged faced scandal. A former partner bluntly told the BBC, "That's not activism, that's opportunism." Anne followed up with a private statement to her team, later leaked to the Sunday Times. "We are not in the business of spectacle, nor will we rescue those who traded legacy for leverage. Let the record stand, and let the silence remain." That silence was no absence, it was judgment. Known for her discipline, her equestrian mastery, and her uncanny ability to remain above the fray, Anne had once again become the monarchy's moral compass. She did not shout, she did not plead, she did not chase headlines, but when she moved, even a whisper carried dynastic weight. For Meghan Markle, that whisper felt like exile. On the morning of February 19th, 2026, Anne arrived at Windsor Court in a tailored grey suit, serene, immovable, yet fully prepared to deliver what many would later describe as the quiet sword of judgment. No pre-briefing, no leaked talking points. This was Anne, and she needed no script. Before a packed briefing room, she began, "I will speak only once on this matter and expect no misinterpretations." What followed was a masterclass in strategic clarity, a calculated rebuke not just of Prince Andrew, but of Meghan Markle's entire narrative construction. She addressed the 2016 Balearic photographs, now resurfaced through international investigative reporting. Long buried, these images reportedly showed Andrew alongside two Epstein-linked associates, contradicting the palace's long-standing narrative of his enforced invisibility. Anne's voice did not falter. It dropped lower, cutting through the tension. It is unacceptable. We removed him from royal duties with the understanding he would not defile what little dignity remained. What we see now is the consequence of private indulgence returning to public view. The monarchy's position is unchanged. Let me be clear, it is irreversible. The room fell into a stunned hush. A journalist asked about Meghan's brand collapse. Over the prior 72 hours, multiple major lifestyle partners had severed ties with Love Meghan, citing ongoing reputational concerns. From sustainable fashion collaborations to mental health advocacy programs, Meghan's name had become a liability. Anne's response was sharp, yet composed. Positivity, inclusion, and warmth must be sustainable. Novelty fades. Character remains. Trust must be earned. It is never a gift from the crown. When pressed about whether Meghan was being unfairly targeted because of her royal past, Anne's gaze sharpened like a sword. If a bridge collapses, we examine its structure. We don't blame the river beneath. Later that afternoon, palace sources confirmed Prince James's instrumental role in damage control. He coordinated emergency legal reviews, implemented asset shielding for Crown partners, and issued confidential impact assessments to Parliament's Sovereign Ethics Committee. Anne briefly acknowledged his work. "I am proud. Prince James has shown not just instinct, but spine. That is duty. Quiet, firm, unspectacular. That is how the throne is protected when everyone else is shouting." By evening, Anne's remarks had gone global. Social media erupted in praise. Hashtags like #AnneDelivers, #DutyNotDrama, and #LegacyOverDrama were trending in more than 40 countries. What began as another scandal had been transformed under her hand into a constitutional reaffirmation. The royal family would no longer shelter recklessness or defend delusion. Meghan and Andrew, however, faced a different reality. The fire they ignited no longer consumed the monarchy, it consumed only them. Strategic, calculated, and patient, Anne and James had shifted the narrative entirely. They had not reacted, they had redefined, and the world watched as the palace quietly but decisively reclaimed control. The lesson was clear. Influence is earned through consistency, loyalty, and respect for legacy. Attempting to weaponize spectacle and personal ambition, no matter how globally celebrated, could collapse under scrutiny. Anne's message was subtle, yet undeniable. She didn't need to raise her voice to make it heard. Every pause, every measured glance, every carefully chosen word sent the message. The crown survives beyond personalities, beyond scandal, and beyond manufactured narratives. And Meghan and Andrew, they had only themselves to blame. The palace wasn't attacking. They were pruning. Those who sought leverage without merit would find themselves consumed, not the institution. By nightfall, the headlines had shifted. Public discourse had moved from outrage to respect. The monarchy had demonstrated that silent precision, discipline, and a steadfast commitment to legacy could overpower even the most sensational media storms. Anne's quiet judgment, paired with James's strategic acumen, had turned chaos into containment. Even the staunchest Meghan supporters could not ignore the elegance of their approach. Legacy, as Anne reminded all, is not performed, it is preserved. And in the monarchy's version of stewardship, preservation often means letting the reckless fall, silently and irreversibly. The message was unmistakable. Power lies not in reaction, but in anticipation, in understanding the long game, and in trusting the next generation to act decisively when others falter. And Anne had delivered it flawlessly, leaving the world to watch and wonder how quietly devastating a royal's precision could truly be. If you want to follow the unfolding palace strategy, understand the quiet moves shaping global headlines, and witness the rise of a new generation of royal tacticians, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for all the latest insider updates. Every story, every leak, every silent move matters, and you don't want to miss a single one.